Now we will talk about collecting sample data. Collecting sample data. Okay. First of all, we want to make sure that we get a good sample, because if your sample is not representing the population and you're not design your sampling method correctly, then the data you collected will be useless. You cannot get your whatever conclusion you want to have. All right. Now, randomness, which means the simple random sample. It sounds like it's a very easy concept, but actually it's not very easy to do. Um, People cannot just simply go get it. All right. Now I would like to talk about there's some basic concepts when you collect the sample data. First one is placebo. And you know what placebo is, right? A placebo is a harmless and ineffective pill or medicine or procedure, sometimes used for like a psychological benefits, or sometimes used by researchers for comparison to other treatment. So placebo kind of related to the treatment. Let's see, for some people you give them medicine, and you might want to, let's say that's your we call them subjects, right, when they're people in our test or in our experiment. So I probably will give this to treatment, give them the right pill, or not the right pill, I give them the pill that I want to, or the medicine I want to see whether the medicine works or not. And then I will give this three people placebo, and then they might not know. Okay, so then in that's the case, then later I can compare this and with this three, I can compare them to see whether this medicine or this pill works or not. So placebo usually comes with in the design, you're not basically doing anything. You probably just give them some candy, or but they don't know. They might not know. All right. Now, the statistical methods are driven by the data that we collect. So usually we collect that from two distinct sources. So we talk about the sources. The first one is called observational. And the other one is experimental. What does that mean? Observational means you just observe. You just observe and measure specific characteristics without attempting to modify the individuals being studied. Just write it down. Just write it down. You just observe. Okay, you're not doing anything to interact with the people or the subject that you're doing research for. That's the observational study. All right. But the other one, this experimental, it was like this. Okay, so you give them medicine, you let them take the medicine to see whether it works or not. So there's some interaction between you and your research object. So that was experimental. So there are two sources. It really depends on what type of research you're doing. All right. So this is, I think most of the time, people would do this, and sometimes in this pharmaceutical industry, then they do the experimental a lot. And for some, I have done this experimental design for like someone majored in education. Like if you want to test whether this teaching method works better than another one, then that's experimental. Okay, so that is something that you got to know. That's a source. And then other than that, there are several concepts. All right, several concepts. I think some of them. Let's see. The first one is replication. Replication means the repetition of an experiment on more than one individual. So you just, for example, like the one you give the medicine, the same medicine to this person, that person, the third person, or the next person. You do this again and again. So probably you should this again and again, right? Do the same thing, okay, to more than one individual. Okay, so this one, you have the the luxury, or you're lucky to do this when you have a pretty large sample size. If your sample size is small or very expensive to get, then you probably are not able to use this replication. All right, now the next concept is called blinding, and we know what blind means. Blind means not knowing, cannot see. So blinding is a technique in which the subject doesn't know whether he or she is receiving a treatment or a placebo. So I have been in a research project before, and they want to test whether this medicine would work in certain way. And so I signed my name, so I like to participate in this research. They give me something, I really don't know. So that is a blinding, okay? It's a blinding experiment. And there's another one called a double blinding. Double blinding, or double blind. So blinding means, for example, patients don't know, right? Okay. This one is patients, and doctors don't know. Who knows? The researcher. Okay. So if you want to try to avoid that the doctor might give some hint, okay, then to the patient, therefore then the people, or we call this the administrating person, he didn't know, but only the people who design the experiment, and at the end they have some like a serial number to label the bottles of the medicines, only those people know. So that's the double blind. All right, now the next one is randomization. Okay, randomization. Randomness is used when subjects are assigned to different groups through a process of random selection. The logic behind it is to use the chance as a way to create two groups that are similar. So that means you might create a group with only one person, that's fine, or with multiple people, then that's fine. So, but you want to make sure that each group has the same chance to occur. All right, now what about this one? Simple random. We just talked about this. Simple random sample. All right, now simple random sample, that's the sample of n people or n subjects. It's selected in such a way that every possible sample of the same size n has the same chance of being chosen. This is a simple random sample. It's also called it's sometimes in our book, in this book, it's also called a random sample, but actually they're different. All right, now random sample is much weaker, has a much weaker requirements that all members of the population have the same chance of being selected. So random sample. Okay, what does that mean? If you have 5 people, you want to choose a group of 3 to form a committee. All right, now for random sample means every one of them have the same chance to be chosen. Okay, so you can, everyone, and the chance to be chosen will be, right, like a 3 out of 5, or you can say, okay, I have the chance to be chosen, I have the chance to be chosen. Everyone has the same. But a simple random sample means for every group of 3, see, those are the group of 3, right? So even this, things like that. There's so many. Later we're going to learn how many possible groups of 3 are possible from these 5 people. And for every single group, each group have the same chance to be chosen. Then that is called a simple random sample. So that's a little difference, but this book are not very picky, so they can just use both. They can use either one. Okay, I'm not very picky about that, so whatever you tell me will be okay. All right, now next we talk about some sampling method. Sampling method. Okay, we will go we'll do this. Simple random sample, that's the first one, or random sample. Simple random sample. You can tell me a random sample. It's the same thing. I don't really care. I'm not very picky. So you're okay to tell me a random sample. For example, our school has 20,000 students, and I want to get, this is n, right? Remember that? Capital letter means the population size. And I want to get n equals, let's say 50. Okay, I want to choose a sample of a 50. So each person out of this 20,000 have the same chance to be chosen. That's a simple random sample. Once you have that, that's a simple random sample. Okay, now the next one, we call this systematic sample. Systematic sampling. Okay, we talk about the sampling method. So systematic sampling. Systematic sampling, that means you have a systematic way to choose the sample. For example, if we see, okay, there are 50 students out of this 20,000, so that is like every 400. So I'm going to choose from like the first one, okay, and then I'm going to choose the 401, 401st, and then I'm going to choose the next one. I'm going to choose the 801. Okay, so did you see what I'm doing? So I choose the first, I choose the 401st, I choose the 801st. So I am choosing one basically out of every 400. So at the end, I'm going to have a 50 out of this 20,000. This is systematic way to choose. Okay? And the next one is called convenience sampling. Convenience sampling. Okay. We just use the data. That's very easy to get. For example, I would like just to get this 50 students. I just set up a little booth. I set up a little table in the lobby. And then I said, whoever want to sign up, please come to do it. And so tell me your age. There's going to be some people who just walked and take a look and they just walk away, just come and go. But there are some people who said, okay, I don't mind. So they just put their age on it. So that's a convenience sampling. And also you can just ask people who look really nice, and they just ask them to get the data. Then that's a convenience sampling. Whatever is convenient for you, easy to get. Okay. The first one, stratified sampling. What does it mean? That means you're going to subdivide the population into different groups. We call that a strata, or subgroups, whatever you call that, so that you're going to choose some from this strata, choose some from the other strata. For example, you get boys and girls, okay, and for this 20,000 people, and then we have some boys, we have some girls, so we choose, let's see, we choose 25 from this and 25 from that. And this is not a simple random sample, it's not a systematic, it's not just convenience, and it's called a stratified sampling. Make sense? Okay, that means you have to put the data, put the population into different strata, and then so you can get you choose from each strata, or you choose from subgroup. Okay, you draw sample there. And then another one is a cluster. Okay, you're gonna divide the population into sections, and then you randomly select some of those sections or clusters, okay, instead of choosing all members from the selected clusters. For example, you think the students will come to school from 8 a.m. to 3 p.m., for example, like that. So you're going to break that into like hours, 8 to 9, 9 to 10, 11, 12, oops, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you choose, let's say you need 50. So I choose 20 students who arrive at the school between 8 and 9. I choose another 20 here, and I choose a 10 here. So if you're doing things this way, then you choose 1, 2, 3. There's a 3 clusters. So you choose the clusters randomly, and then you choose from this each cluster. So that's called a cluster sampling. You totally missed it. You totally missed other subgroups. It's not like this one. You see the difference between these two? This one, you put the people in 2 different groups, and then you choose from each group. But this one, you choose the group first. You choose groups first. So that's true. Okay. And there's some others, but so far I think we just need to know those. As long as you know this, you get some basic idea, then you're okay. If you like to read the book or read my PowerPoint to find like a more example of those sampling method, you're welcome to do so. And otherwise, if you can come up with a sampling method, then you're welcome to come to talk to me, and we can talk about that. Because I, as a statistician, I did this quite a lot before in my life, in my other career. So yeah, I like to share those with you about the sampling method. It's very important. All right. So that's all for a sampling method.